I put on 10 to 15 pounds during the school year. I go back to France in the summer, weight comes off.
If there's one thing America will always get flack for, it is our diabolical food quality. And I can't blame y'all, because guess what? I did not believe the horrible food quality shtick until I myself traveled to Europe many years ago. In 2023, I landed in Germany for the very first time. I ate as much as I possibly could. I ate and I drank, and I made sure I did not put a limit on what I could and could not drink. So I was indulging in every type of food that was available to me. And what I found out was I actually lost weight. I lost 7 kilos at least. I was only in Germany for 1 week. And the thing is, I'm not alone in this. There are plenty of Americans that have also traveled from the United States to Europe and have lost an insane amount of weight and felt way better eating the food in Europe. And when they travel back to the United States, inevitably, right, all the symptoms come back. The bloating, the weight gain, the grogginess, the sleepiness, you know what I mean? It's like a crazy phenomenon. So in this video, we're gonna be talking about the differences between American food quality and European food quality. If you guys are new to the channel, welcome. If you guys are returning viewers, welcome back. Before we get into this, make sure you guys like the video and subscribe if you haven't already. And also feel free to leave a comment down below with your experience trying American food if you're from Europe. And for my Americans watching this video, your experience trying European food. So just to start off, one of the main things that kind of governs what goes into the food in the United States is an organization called the FDA, or the Food and Drug Administration. And what they do is they regulate what is safe and what is not to go in food, and what things have been tested and are safe to use as far as medical drugs and whatnot go. But obviously the standards have changed over the years, and what we allow in the United States is entirely different than what is allowed in Europe. In fact, they actually have a organization out there that's pretty much adjacent to what we have in the United States, which is the European Food Safety Authority. And that's an organization that provides independent scientific advice based on studies that they've done to make sure that all food-related risk factors are mitigated as much as humanly possible. And I do feel like the objective of the FDA, while valid, might have some issues with it. Let's go ahead and take a look at some of these posts and see what some people had to say about their experiences traveling to Europe. This post shows and highlights exactly what I've been saying. All this lady did was eat carbs and sugars for her time in Europe, and she lost 5 pounds. Insane. If you did that in America, oh my goodness. Now let me let you know something. The food tastes absolutely exquisite. I love it. I love it. I have a palate for it, right? And a lot of people appreciate American food as well. Thing is, on average, it's not very healthy. And there's a lot of things that are in the food that will make you feel certain ways. You might notice you'll have an uptick in acne, or you might feel a little bit groggier. You might experience symptoms that are signs of being sick. And that has everything to do with the chemicals we choose to put in our food. So a big portion of what we're talking about in this video is the fact that when a lot of people from the United States travel to Europe, their diet doesn't really change, and yet they lose all this weight. So they could be eating cake, ice cream, drinking sodas, eating chips, things of that nature, and a lot of bread or whatever in the United States. But when they travel to Europe, for some reason, they eat the same diet and lose pounds on pounds on pounds, and they feel better. Their skin clears up. They feel phenomenal. They don't feel like their body is attacking itself and whatnot due to the food that they're eating. And we're going to be taking a look at this chart that I have pulled up here of the top 8 most banned chemicals in the EU that America has in its foods. You see, this right here is potassium bromate. And as you can see here, it's known for irritating the nose, throat, and lungs. And get this, has been proven to cause thyroid and kidney cancers in a lot of animals. And we typically see this chemical in a lot of breaded products in the United States. So it's only a wonder why people who consume breaded products in Europe don't feel the same way, because I mean, it's absolved of this chemical. Now, if we move on to the next chemical, which is titanium dioxide, we can see that the intent is to enhance a product's white color and opacity. So those candies that are kind of see-through or frothy, this chemical is typically in them in the United States. But get this, the IARC has listed this as a carcinogen, which means, again, another chemical that has been linked to causing cancers. And we can find this in tons and tons of candied products in the United States. So it's also a wonder why when Americans travel to Europe and they maintain the same diet and eat a bunch of candy over there, that candy doesn't make us feel bad at all. Now, this next product that's been banned from the EU that is very prominent in the US and used in a lot of our products is brominated vegetable oil, which contains the chemical bromine, which again is banned in all of the EU for food products. And this is yet another chemical that irritates the skin and mucous membranes, so that itchy, scratchy feeling you feel all over your body, well, that is caused from that. And when you try a lot of the products that have this in the United States, like a bunch of our sodas, I mean, we can see this in a lot of common sodas that are listed here, it's been linked to cause neurological problems. So, I mean, you know, mental health is a really big thing in the United States right now, and also globally, but I would say a lot of our food has to do with how we are the way we are when we do not have our diet in check, and when we have all these chemicals that are allowed to be persistent in our food. Basically, our food's killing us. But wait, there's more. Remember that chemical I talked about a long time ago, azodicarbonamide? Well, that's a chemical used as a whitening agent in cereal flour and bread dough. And get this, when broken down, has also proven to be carcinogenic. So out of all the chemicals we've listed so far, 3 of the 4 have been linked to causing cancer. And we see this chemical used in tons and tons of very frequented items, bread, obviously, cereal flour. So any box of cereal you've gotten from the United States has this in it, and it continues to get worse. So like I said, there's a lot more. Let's go ahead and move on to this next chemical, which is propylparaben, which has been found to affect fertility in mice, which, you know, again, we typically test these on animals before we test them on ourselves. So you can make an inference from what I've just presented you. And we find this in a lot of cake icing and other packaged products. Now, this next one is something that has been a huge topic of discussion, and you've heard this in many videos, but we will be getting into this. And it's the notorious red 40, yellow 6, and yellow 5 dyes. And while these particular chemicals aren't entirely banned in Europe, Europe has required every company using these dyes to include in warning labels that this does affect attention spans in children. And there's a huge possibility that this may be contaminated with several carcinogens. Now, the next thing we're going to be covering is antibiotics in animals, because there's an innate fear that overuse of these antibiotics can cause bacteria that are drug resistant that can transfer from the animals that we're consuming to the actual consumers, us. And we use a ton of antibiotics in the United States. Not saying that we shouldn't, but we should regulate how much we're using. And finally, the last chemical we'll be covering, which is RBST, which is a hormone injected in cows to increase milk production. And guess what? This has links to one of the most common cancers in the United States, breast cancer. So think about this. Most of the food that you're consuming when you're in the United States that allows these chemicals to be not just present, but very prevalent within most, if not all of our food, causes and is linked to debilitating diseases that affect our health. Our food is literally killing us, and that's pretty much an accurate statement. If you guys agree with this, let me know in the comments down below. I find that to be pretty interesting. And also, again, the people who are watching this video from the United States that have been to Europe, let me know in the comments down below what your experience was trying European food, because for me, I have not been to every single European country in Europe. In fact, I've only been to a fraction of them. So from what I've experienced so far, it's been very interesting, very shocking. Every single time, stomach is perfectly good, and I feel energized. And I know in a lot of these videos, it's like, oh, well, America doesn't have anything healthy and Europe has all the healthy. That's not what I'm saying. In fact, I'm saying America's bottom line, yeah, not very healthy. We do have a ton of healthy food. It's just put behind a very steep paywall. Everything costs an arm, a leg, and a goat sacrifice, and the average American cannot afford to pay that price every single time they go grocery shopping. So of course, affordable food in the United States is not healthy at all, but we do have access to healthy food for the most part. It's just interesting that that very healthy food that has a ridiculously high paywall is affordable and attainable by almost every single person throughout Europe, because that's a normalcy. And I was like, whoa.
Why do you think, on average, living here in the UK, Europeans eat healthier?
Access to healthier foods and maybe knowledge.
In France, for example, eating is part of our culture. Prepare our food and not really buy like takeaways.
But one thing I'll say that really stands out is their cereals, because like, don't get me wrong, it tastes nice, but you can tell it's unhealthy because it's really sweet. And I think it's addictive. I end up pouring myself like 3 bowls or something.
Damn, not you coming for our cereal like that. But yes, I actually realized how sugary the cereals were in the United States when I was damn near an adult. Now, that was one of the biggest contingencies in the United States for a long time when it came to diet and whatnot for children.
Many popular children's cereals have as much sugar in them as desserts, according to a report by an advocacy nonprofit, the Environmental Working Group.
Because kids absolutely love their sugary cereals because they have a copious amount of sugar in them and other interesting chemicals inside of the cereal that makes the cereal very delicious, but also addicting and very unhealthy for the people consuming the cereal. But one of the people in the comment section was hilarious, as this comment reads, America has more obese people, sure, but we also have way more fitness fanatics than the UK. The US is huge, so you get both extremes. It's funny seeing people who've probably barely been here having such a resolute opinion on Americans, kind of like the reverse of Borat. I'm from California, one of the leanest states, and our obesity rate is similar to the UK's. Plus, it's a massive country. It takes longer to cross the US than for Brits to get to France. Just a different scale of diversity here. I've heard this one time and time again. Yes, there is some truth to this statement. The United States is very big, and so you're gonna have a much larger pool of people to kind of bounce things off of if you're just comparing the UK to the entirety of the United States, but all of Europe combined has more people than the United States. The United States of America has 324 million people roughly, and if my memory serves me correctly about Europe, I'm pretty sure altogether you guys have about 700 million if you put all of Europe together. Dang, so I lowballed you guys. You guys actually have 744 million people total in Europe. So actually, that argument that's been brought up time and time again has zero merit. The commenter was, again, referring to comparing the UK to the United States. But when we talk about Europe in its entirety, right, all of the countries within Europe and the United States when it comes to food access and regulations and obesity and whatnot, there is a much larger pool of people in Europe than there is in the United States, and there is a much lower rate of obesity in Europe than there is in the United States. And the facts speak for themselves. See, after doing just a quick Google search, it is proven here that the United States has a significantly higher obesity rate than all of Europe combined. On average, 40% of the United States' population is morbidly obese. That number is slashed when you look at Europe. 25% of its population is obese.
American food.
Fat.
Mac and cheese.
Burgers. Unhealthy.
American food.
Sexy lingerie.
McDonald's.
Very heavy, very greasy, big portions.
Obesity.
Bread maybe and cheese.
Junk food, basically. Yeah.
I don't know why that one lady responded with
Sexy lingerie.
that makes zero sense. How does American food make you think of lingerie? Are you about to do some diabolical stuff to your food?
Like warm apple pie. Yeah? Yeah.
Anyways, we thrive in fast food. I will say that. Our food is delicious though. I ain't gonna lie to you, man. Like, not the healthiest, but it tastes great. There's a lot of amazing dishes throughout the United States. It's baffling to me when people say, oh, well, you know, Americans have no culture. The food is very bland and blah, blah, blah. It just depends on where you travel. Because you could say the same thing about European food as far as the flavors being bland, right? In some places over other places, but you got to go to the right place. Obesity is talking about obesity.
Obesity.
The comments were pretty vicious on this video. I've noticed that when we compare the food qualities and the outcomes of what food does in the United States versus Europe, a lot of people from the United States are like, oh, so Europe just has no fat people then. Like, no, there's obviously plenty of overweight people in Europe as well, but just not at the rate that there are in the United States. And it's simply because of how our food regulation system is set up.
It might be because my nose is clogged, but there's no taste.
No taste?
Tastes a bit like McDonald's, basically nothing. Like a cardboard with some meat on it.
Oh my god. This is Burger King's Texas Double Whopper.
This one tastes different than the other one.
Mm-hmm.
It's still pretty neutral taste. There isn't like... It just tastes Burger King. I think you could order whatever burger you would in there and it would taste exactly like this one.
Oh, there's a big bite. How's that one? Oh, shaking his head.
It's even hard to chew it compared to normal.
Now, I'm not gonna lie, this guy has a point. While I was a huge fan of Burger King for a while until it tasted absolutely disgusting for some very awakening reason, big chains like that from the United States especially, like Wendy's, Burger King, McDonald's, etc., the food is incredibly processed, hyper processed even. So when you bite into burgers like that, I think to myself, I have cravings for it, right? And it does taste good. But when you step outside the box a little bit and you're like, ooh, why does this not taste like a regular cooked burger, right? Like if you go to a restaurant and you have an actual burger, right? You know, freshly made burger versus this processed shit, it's going to be a bit different. Fair assessment, sir. Please don't kick my ass. Yes, that dude was absolutely ripped out of his mind, and he made a very accurate statement about the description of Burger King burgers. And not just Burger King burgers, but any fast food burger you get from the United States. It's generally not the greatest.
What would you classify as American food? Let's just talk about that.
Hamburgers.
Okay, hamburger is German. From Hamburg, what else would you consider American food?
French fries.
That is a good question. What would you guys consider to be American food? Because what he just said...
Okay, hamburger is German. From Hamburg.
It makes a lot of sense. But French fries, I'm pretty sure fries originated from Belgium, if I'm not mistaken. But of course, America has a wild variety of different cultures and stuff like that. So we have a bit of everything in the United States. You know what I mean? So it is pretty interesting. I think you could throw that in the mix of a lot of the things that we would classify as American food. But inherently, like when you think of like dishes, I think of like chicken and waffles. I don't know any other country that does chicken and waffles like the United States does chicken and waffles. That's an American dish. Peanut butter and jelly. I think that's an American dish. Y'all let me know. And they're good. They're good. They're very unique meals and stuff like that. They're not the healthiest, but they are very tasty. And guess what? They're gonna have you feeling a certain way. Bro had that name Tim Books energy. Nah, but for real, Tom Holland wasn't playing with y'all, man. He was like, look.
What would you classify as American food?
Name an American food, because it's probably not American. Chicken and waffles is, though. I'm standing on that. Now, the waffles are obviously not American, but I'm saying the combination, all right? The meal. Saying pizza next would have made him walk out. Yeah, it seemed like he was on the verge of tears having a conversation with the interviewer.
A quick story about American food quality and the effects of American food and eating it. So our daughter has been going to a French immersion school for the last 7 years. And so we've gotten to know a lot of the teachers who are usually French teachers coming over here in most cases on a contract. And so we've talked to them about this, and I've heard multiple times from teachers something along the following lines. You know, it's really weird. I came here and I've been eating the exact same diet, exact same food, everything the same. I walk, exercise the same amount and everything. I put on 10 to 15 pounds during the school year. I go back to France in the summer, weight comes off. So this isn't talking about the poison and the health issues and everything, but obviously there's something in our food. They're eating the exact same food, different quality, and it's causing them to just balloon up and bloat and all these other things and gain weight. So my question is, what the hell are they putting in our food that's doing that? Anecdotally, for us as a family, when we have gone over to Europe for like say 3 or 4 weeks and we eat, we drop weight, and we also feel healthier. I mean, just anecdotally, we feel good. And we're on vacation, we're splurging, right? We're having baguettes every day, or pain au chocolat, or, whatever it is, like eating pasta in Italy and, saying yes to dessert, because we're on vacation, right? So we're not really eating better in that sense, like relative to what we would have here. If we did that in America, I don't even want to think what would happen. And we feel good. And, people say, oh, it's the walking. No, we walk a lot here too. 10,000, 20,000 steps a day. So it's not it. So there's just something very wrong with our food supply in America. So for us, a big reason for going overseas is trusting the food. We don't trust the food in America anymore. Absolutely not at all. In fact, it's beyond don't trust. It's absolutely sure that the food is poisoning us and is making us sick. That's where we've gotten. And you'll see lots about that here on TikTok. And I've lived it anecdotally, had that experience, and am convinced of it, and have just lost all trust. And it's just very simple. They ban all of the stuff that we allow in our food here. There's something like 3,000 ingredients or something that they don't allow. Like, for example, in the EU, they don't allow these ingredients, and we happily in America put them in our food. So there you go.
Now that's something that's always rubbed me the wrong way. If we had even paid attention to our allies and the food that they feed their people, right? Especially like, you know, looking at the mortality rate and how the economies are thriving and whatnot, paying attention to how clean the food is out there, I think would have been a high priority on the list of things to apply to our own country. Because looking at European counterparts, right? The people over there live in long, healthy lives. They're not morbidly obese. Most people are pretty like in shape and stuff like that, healthy, and they just avoid these chemicals, these things. And I'm like, okay, like obviously we should probably follow suit and even modify it to make it even more strict, right? Like that would make sense, but I guess that makes too much sense. It truly baffles me that we've gone this long without making modifications to try to make people healthier and make Americans trust the food that they're consuming in the United States. I mean, since we've had an overhaul of people who oversee the additives that go in the food and whatnot, this year under this current administration, we've had outbreaks left and right in the food in the United States, and a ton of recalls. We have had a ton of recalls this year over poultry, various produce, and it's scary. And of course, there's like almost a gag order on corporations to not tell the public of things that are wrong with the food. So people are consuming food that will literally poison you. So many people have experienced the same thing. So scary. What I explained early on in this video is exactly what he was explaining, you know, the symptoms of eating food from the United States versus traveling to Europe and actually trying the food out there, eating the same diet and having wildly different results, feeling better, you know what I mean? Feeling better and physically losing weight in a good way. Crazy. And we already touched on the idea of, okay, maybe you're more active in one location than another, but even with keeping the same level of activity, because one big thing about myself personally that I did not mention before is I work out all the time, generally 7 days a week. I immediately noticed how fast I was able to get in shape in Europe versus like in America. So interesting.
Look how much weight I'm losing in Italy. Like what?
This beautiful human is talking about how she's losing weight in Italy, but all she's eating is pasta, pizza, and ice cream. What's going on here? That's because countries that are not the US actually have better quality food. In the US, literally all of our food is extremely processed, even foods that you think are healthy. Much of our crops are sprayed with pesticides, our food is being processed, added with things like fillers and preservatives, which are all hormone disrupting chemicals, and we know these types of ingredients can alter our metabolic function, our hormone production, and can make us gain weight. And many of these ingredients are actually banned in other countries because they know that they can cause harm. But I think we all know by now that the US doesn't want people to get healthy. They profit off of people being and staying sick, and they like to silence practitioners like myself who are actually helping to get people healthy.
That is exactly what I brought up earlier. Practitioners are being silenced. They are not allowed to let the public know that the food or chemicals that are in the food, if they are poisonous and harmful for the people, you're not allowed to know about that. So, or they're not allowed to tell you. It's just basic human rights, right? Nothing crazy, nothing extravagant. If you notice, the points that I've brought up over and over and over again, beating the dead horse, is human rights, just basic human rights. I feel like we're not asking for much. Would it kill us to make healthy food available for everybody? No matter what working class you stand in, if you're lower class, middle class, whatever, you should be able to have access to healthy food as a bare basic minimum in your society. But again, when you prioritize money over people, this is the end result. The pesticides is why I now react to almost any fruit now. I need to start growing my own, but I live where the weather throws temperatures like the lotto. I'd say over the last 10 years, I've noticed an uptick in people trying to grow their own food in the United States because they do not trust what has been done to the fruit, vegetables, all that good stuff in the United States. It's unfortunate. You know what I mean? So unfortunately on that though, like you have to have optimal weather conditions to grow particular fruits and veggies. You have to deal with what is available to you and navigate around that. For food regulations don't change anytime soon, we're gonna have a rough time. So true. I normally get inflammation when I eat pasta. I made pasta from Greece a while back, and I felt fine after. It definitely was the lack of junk. I mean, I can say it 1,000,005 times. I felt better eating food in Europe. I felt worse eating food in America. Can somebody else corroborate this in the comments, please? Because I can't be the only one that felt like this. And clearly, I'm not, based on what I've shown you so far. But wait, there's more. Now, I pulled a side-by-side chart of what makes the FDA different than the EFSA. And if we look here, the role of the FDA is to conduct both scientific risk assessments and risk management decisions. And on the other side with the EFSA, their role is to conduct scientific risk assessment and provide advice, and the European Commission handles risk management. So very, very interesting stuff. If we go down a line and look at the regulatory structure, for the FDA, it says it's a federal system. Authority is shared between the federal government and state governments. And then for the EFSA, it's a centralized system, and it provides scientific advice that informs EU legislation and policies, which is pretty interesting when you look at that. A line down and you see the key principles, of course, which this is very telling. It says it operates on a proof-based approach for the FDA, where a substance is allowed unless significant harm is proven. Now, keep that wording in mind. When we look at the EFSA, it says operates on the precautionary principle, restricting or banning a substance if its safety is uncertain. So in one case, like I said, pay attention to the wording. For the FDA, they're like, it's a proof-based approach. They will only ban a chemical if it's proven to have harmed people. So people have to get hurt first for them to ban a chemical. For Europe, they're like, we're not even going to put that on the table. If we even suspect that this will harm anybody, it's gone until you can prove that it works. Until you can prove that it's safe, we're banning it. So there is no letting uncertain chemicals reign free. And that is exactly what I'm talking about. And that probably adds to people feeling a certain way when they eat the food. You look a line down, it says product approval. So under the FDA, it says uses a system like GRAS, generally recognized as safe, where companies have a large part of the responsibility for ensuring safety. But when you look at the EFSA, it says requires a government approved process, which can involve more upfront work, but offers more government backing. So it seems like the system is far more secure throughout Europe than it is in the United States, just based on what we've seen line by line. And then finally, enforcement. Let's look at the FDA, and it says enforcement is carried out at both federal and state levels. And if you look at the EFSA, it says EFSA aligns and enforces regulations for all EU member nations. You can clearly identify major fallacies between the FDA and the EFSA. And now, while both of them probably have their fair share of issues, the FDA clearly has an astronomically higher amount of issues, just with what we saw. Now, we have a few Reddit posts, and this first post says, non-Americans, which distinctly American food turns your stomach or is nauseating to think about someone actually eating? And of course, as you can imagine, there were tons of comments. And the first comment says, Pop-Tarts. The first time I ate one, I was filled with so much anticipation and excitement. And it felt like the diabetes fairy took a shit in my mouth. Edit. Okay, for the sake of science, I'll try it buttered and toasted next time. I came across an unsuspecting Pop-Tart. That probably will help a lot. The tastelessness of the pastry made it impossible to eat. Thanks, folks, although I'm not sure my body can handle the combined power of the diabetes fairy and Paula Deen, but for science, I was a huge fan of Pop-Tarts when I was younger, and as I'm older now, I identify them as a treat, right? And so I'll have them if I'm craving a Pop-Tart every once in a blue moon, and that moon gotta be blue, okay? It is very sugary. Depending on the type of Pop-Tart you get, it can be very bland. The breading, it is very bland and dry, and you're typically supposed to heat them up, but if I'm being so honest, most people eat them straight out the package, okay? Most people don't have a toaster right next to them when they eat those Pop-Tarts. They grab them, they eat them on the fly, and they are as they are. You know what I mean? And I think they're okay. It's like a sufficient placeholder if you're trying to get your blood sugar up in the clouds. I definitely feel what this person's saying about the diabetes fairy taking a dookie in his mouth. Like that's diabolical. I never heard nothing like that before. Non-American living in US here. Craziest things for me are the Carnival deep fried food. Literally they deep fry things such as deep fried dough, funnel cakes, deep fried Snicker bars, deep fried Oreos. I also have heard of deep fried butter, like How? I don't think it's a mystery why or how we have speed ran obesity in America. Yeah, deep frying is a Olympic sport out here, okay? Listen, deep fried butter, ooh, my stomach trembled a little bit when I said that. Now, I have had deep fried Oreos, I've had funnel cake, and all those other things. And while they are good, it is very, 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 very easy for them to be an overwhelming taste, an overwhelming flavor, because it's literally grease and sugar and lots of butter. You know what I'm saying? It's just not great. The best way I can describe the flavor, it's like greasy carnival churro breading covering a soggy, grease-covered Oreo. You bite into it. What you just pictured in your head is exactly what that tastes like. The absurd amount of multicolored cereal. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, we've talked about this. Multicolored cereal, right? Sugary cereals. Lucky Charms. Captain Crunch, just a bunch of different cereals. I can name a bunch of cereals. Trix, all of those cereals. While they are very tasty, they are horrible for you. They are horrible for your teeth. They're horrible for your body. They are not good. Okay, they will ruin your health fast. And kids love those cereals. Adults love those cereals. Look, I remember back in high school, I used to take a box of cereal, pour it in a big popcorn bucket, and dump like a half a gallon of milk in there and watch TV shows with my friends while eating cereal out of this fucking popcorn bucket, dude. This big metal popcorn bucket thing. Oh my gosh, bro. Saying that out loud sounds wild because it was, but it was really good. It's just not healthy for you. In fact, I'm actually very curious. How many of you guys out there in Europe actually have cereal for breakfast? What do you have for breakfast? What's the norm? Is it bacon and eggs? Is it just eggs and porridge or something? Or like, I know it's gonna vary from country to country in Europe, but like, what do you guys eat over there? In whatever country you're in within Europe, what do you have for breakfast? What is considered normal? But this is the post I was talking about earlier in the video. I'm not sure if I edited that in, but it is the FDA question. And the post basically says, if the FDA was abolished tomorrow, what would be the safest foods to eat? Feel free to answer this question in the comments down below, by the way. For the people who have figured out what the FDA is after giving a brief description in this video, what foods would be safe to eat in your humble opinion? Our first comment is very interesting as it says, aside from food you grew, possibly McDonald's. They control the entire supply chain from farm to restaurant, and even if they don't care about your health, they care about their liability. And that's facts. They might not give a fuck about your health, but they do care about lawsuits being lobbed at them. So if they are liable in any way, shape, or form, they will make sure that the food will at least not kill you immediately. Maybe a slow death, but not immediately. You know, anything to get to that bag. Welcome to capitalism. Our next comment says, whole foods that you grew yourself from seeds purchased in Canada. See, now that's creative. Getting seeds from other countries, growing them in your country, boom. Too easy, except you need to make sure that you have the environment available to grow that type of food. Like you can't just like grow any old thing in any kind of environment. You know what I mean? Like if you're trying to grow fruits and veggies and you're in an area that does not have a lot of sun, then good luck with that. Or if you don't have enough dirt, or if the soil is too hard, or if the climate is too dry, and the fruits and vegetables you need to grow require a lot of moisture and regular watering and stuff like that, it's going to be very difficult to make that happen. And I also did not know this, but I guess you need permits for some things, like not to grow fruits and vegetables, but if you want to make it as big as I'm assuming a lot of you guys want to make it when you do grow your fruits and veggies and whatnot and have a little farm basically in your backyard. I had a friend that did permaculture and he actually had to get a permit to move mulch in his backyard and do the whole thing or whatever. And I'm like, that's insane. That's something I couldn't get into because I'm not responsible enough to take on a task that big. Our next comment says, the FDA is only watchdog looking after the food supply. Without them, we're on our own. So you'd want to be as close to the source as possible. If you're not growing it yourself, you want to be on a first name basis with the farmer and know them as someone you can trust. Consider community supported agriculture, CSA programs, and learning what farming practices they use. That's another smart tactic, actually. I do think that getting ahead of all of this stuff, going to school and educating yourself, especially in what I was just talking about, permaculture, farming, things like that, you can get a much deeper insight on how you can protect your fruits and veggies yourself so that you make sure that you're providing resources for your body to have healthy options without getting tore up by chemicals, hormones, etc., which I think is pretty fucking cool. Let me know how you guys feel about that. That is pretty much the video. We went down the lengthy list of things that make America's food quality absolutely abominable, and we praised the hell out of Europe's food quality. So pat on the back for my Europeans out there. Congratulations. I cannot wait to visit more of the countries out in Europe. If you guys have recommendations for countries you would like me to visit and food you would like me to try, because I am definitely a huge fan of food, as I'm sure most of you guys are as well, let me know in the comments down below. I'd love to hear from you guys. Make sure you guys follow me on Instagram if you guys have not already. It's just James Bray 3D. I'll link it down in the description down below. And we are going to start doing live streams on Twitch where I interact with you guys and you guys will kind of explain some of the lore behind memes or history regarding your countries and whatnot. So make sure you follow me on Twitch as well.